Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Big Boss Show. It's a show where we come to you every week with somebody that may have not always been a big boss, but shares his or her perspective we can learn from. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. We got Neil Patel, co founder of Neil Patel Ad Agency. Neil, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. It's a pleasure. When I think of digital marketing, you're the first person that comes to mind. I think everybody has at least seen an article by you or read something about you. I'd like to hear more about your journey about into becoming a popular business influencer. What led you down this path? Why did you do it, and how did you achieve this success that you have?
So the funny part, I'll answer the why. I didn't actually intentionally do it. I don't know if I'm that big of an influence or anything like that. There's so many bigger people than me out there. And for me, when I started off trying to get clients for my marketing agency, and back then I had a different company. It no longer exists. But I couldn't spend money on advertising. I didn't have all the money to go sponsor conferences or booths or do tons of ads. And I didn't have all the resources and money to hire tons of people, like tons of salespeople or really connected executives who can help drive up some business. So I started creating content and blogging back in the day. A blog that no longer exists called ProNet Advertising, where I would blog about marketing related stuff. And I did it because I was trying to generate business, right? There was no real goal to become an influencer, become well known. I was just trying to drum up business, and it was the only way I knew that I could do it without spending tons of money.
Okay, okay. Was this your first business, the marketing agency?
Back then, it was called ACS. The current one is Neil Patel Digital. But back then, that agency, it really crashed during the 2008, the mortgage crisis back then. A lot of big companies were pulling their budgets back, and it really hurt the business and crippled it. But generally speaking, yeah, that this was my first real company, and it got into the millions in revenue, but it went down just as quick once the crash happened.
So let me ask you, like, what background do you have in business? Like, were your parents entrepreneurs? Like, tell me about how this all got started. Tell me about how this childhood, turned you into this.
Yeah, so my mom was entrepreneur. My dad worked a 9 to 5 job. My mom had a home daycare. So not a big business, but she had a small mom and pop business. And when I was 16, I was trying to find a really good high paying job. I couldn't find one. I was on the internet, found some job boards, didn't qualify for any of the jobs because they all required college degrees. But during that process, I quickly realized that job boards were making tons of money. So I started to create my own job board, and I paid some people with some savings I made, working at a theme park, to pay someone to build that job board. And once the job board was up and running, what ended up happening is no one came to it. So I quickly had to learn how to get traffic, and I got decently good at it. And the job board became more popular, but it still didn't make any money. So from there, I started saying, all right, I can't make this job more successful. I'm good at driving traffic. Let me just drive traffic to other people. And I would start cold calling, dialing people to try to get customers and convince them, saying, hey, you're spending a lot of money on Google ads. Let me do your SEO and help you rank on Google or manage your ads better. Some people, most people didn't care, didn't want to work with me. Some people said yes. And it was a numbers game. And eventually I started drumming up some business that way.
So you were 16 years old when you started this job board, your first business.
Yep.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of young people that are coming out of school, especially right now, the media is calling it the Great Resignation. What would you recommend people to do, like young people, like should they go work for themselves or should they go find a job?
There's no either wrong or right approach. You can work for someone else and you'll learn a lot. So then that way, one day, if you want to do your own thing, you'll know what works and what doesn't, and hopefully make less mistakes. Or you can just start off as an entrepreneur and go out there and do your own thing if you have an idea and you just want to go and crank it out and see what happens.
Okay, that's really good.
The one thing I would persuade people not to do is go to college. I don't think it's necessary to go to college unless your profession requires it. Like you want to be a doctor, lawyer, you have to go to college. It's required for most countries. But most professions, you're going to learn more just doing than you are going than if you went to college.
Okay, okay, great. Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, how do you advise new entrepreneurs to deal with failures?
I advise new entrepreneurs to deal with failure by just saying it's going to happen. It's okay. Learn from your mistakes and avoid making the same one over and over again. By doing that, eventually, yeah, you'll make a lot of mistakes at the beginning, but eventually you'll get to a place where you're like, huh, I know not to do this, not to do that, not to do this other thing. So be left with the options that you should be doing, which will cause you to get to where you are.
So I'm just curious, was there any particular thing that influenced you to start becoming a business in your own business? If there was one thing that you could look back on
Mm,
that influenced you.
Nothing really. It was more so when I was younger, it was really hard to go get a high paying job, and I thought the only way to become successful or rich was to start your own business. Now that's not a good reason to start a business, but that's why I did it back then.
That's all I hear. Don't get in it for the money. But I was in a pretty similar situation. Coming out of school, I was trying to find a job, and the only thing I could find was a sales jobs. So that's where I learned to sell, and eventually built my business off just being a good salesperson. I mean, you provide a lot of free knowledge to the public through Instagram and your blog. That takes a lot of time and work. What inspired you to do this?
Well, back in the day, by creating content, you can build an audience and you can get leads for your company. So with our ad agency, I would say we get 20 to 30,000 leads a month by creating free content. It's a really powerful way to generate business without paying for it. And yeah, it does cost money because of time and resources. Maybe you have a team that helps you with editing or, filming the content or whatever it may be, but it is a much cheaper way to generate business than it is to spend a ton of money on Google and Facebook ads.
That's incredible. What advice do you have on keeping a healthy work to life to personal life ratio?
I don't have any solutions for that one. So when I met my wife, at that time we were dating, but now we're married with kids. My wife knew I was a workaholic and she was okay with it. And it's really hard for me to change and not be one. And she just accepts it and she has no issues with it. But to me, that's how I create a balance because my wife is okay with it. And I do try to spend time with my family from dinners to walks. We try to do some things that, just gives my wife and my kids some time. And hopefully, I'm not working 24/7, but I end up working 7 days a week.
As you should. Let me ask you something. Back to generating leads thing. What do you see coming for 2022? How do you see new entrepreneurs marketing in 2022?
All good channels eventually get crowded and get competitive. You can't build a business just off of one channel like you used to. It's very hard. I say these days in 2022, people are going to have to use TikTok, the Instagrams, the social networks, SEO, email marketing, push notifications, SMS, ads. Like they're literally going to have to leverage all the channels, even like things like conversion rate optimization. There's not one channel that's going to build a business. You have no choice but to go omni-channel these days, and it's the only way to do really well in the long run.
Okay. Um, Let me ask you something, because my industry is full of older people. Like they're stuck in they're cold calling, they're emailing. What would you say to those people? That's the audience watching or listening.
Well, if it's older people, you can partner with like the AARPs. You can cold call. You can target them on Facebook because there's tons of them on Facebook and LinkedIn and all these social networks. There's tons of them that use Google every day, so SEO works. They open up their emails, email marketing works. They have phones, so SMS works. But I would still use all the channels out there. They work with audiences of any range. Heck, there's people who market to little kids, with their little cartoons on YouTube, and they have these shows opening up toys and they're making millions of dollars.
That's awesome. That's really cool. What's some common mistakes you see not new entrepreneurs make?
The big thing I see new entrepreneurs make is they try to do too many things at once, because if you don't have laser focus, you're not going to do well. The second big mistake that I see new entrepreneurs making is new entrepreneurs aren't patient in many cases. They want like results right away. It's like, oh, how do I go from 0 to a million right away? I get it. Everyone wants that. It just takes time and patience, and you got to learn. The other thing is they try to do everything by themselves instead of partnering with people or hiring people who are better than them. It's okay if people are better than you. You want to hire people who are smarter than you. That's a better way to get to where you want to be versus you yourself trying to do everything.
But in the beginning, you were on your own, right? So why a marketing agency? Why that business?
I was good at generating traffic. I wasn't good at making money, but I was good at generating traffic. So I was like, let me do it for other people and charge them.
That's amazing. I, I'm sure you've been getting this question a lot lately, but I want to know what your thoughts are on NFTs. You think they could be used as a successful marketing tool for business?
I think they can. I think it's still really early. I think a lot of people are just doing it because they want a quick buck. But there's potential in NFTs. The question is how do you go out there, market it, make it work, and make it relevant to the business? Like Coachella has some cool NFT project that came out with FTX, and it gets you perks to Coachella. That makes sense. But to me, it doesn't make sense to just say, hey, I'm creating an NFT, give me money, and you get these images. And like, yeah, that's cool. But unless people really love the images, I don't really see it as viable. Businesses need to offer people something in exchange.
Right. Let me ask you, where you based out of?
Vegas.
Oh, sweet. Nice. All right. I'm just gonna be a little jealous right now, but if I get some advice, I've been in business for 3 years. I have five salespeople. We're hitting the phones. They're making hundreds of calls a day. I don't know. I tried writing my own in-house team, but it's really hard to find the talent to build your own in-house marketing team. You have any advice for me? I'm just being selfish right now.
Yeah, I do. So if I were you, I would go look up who are my competitors. I would go look at their LinkedIn profiles, see who's doing sales and operations at the competitors, and then literally hit those people up and try to convince them to join your company. Because if they're working at your competitors, they worked there for a while. If they got promoted many times and they did well there, there's a chance they'll do well for you too.
That's amazing. Is there anything else you want to mention?
Just patience. In entrepreneurship, you're not going to get to where you want in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, even 5 years. But in 10 years, you'll be shocked on what you can do. People always overestimate what they can do in the short run. They underestimate what they can do in the long run.
That's great. That's great. All right, give the audience your plugs and your .com links.
NeilPatel.com is where I blog. NPdigital.com is my ad agency.
Okay, great. But listen, I really appreciate your time. Let's keep in touch.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, you got it.